Thank you. If you could all please take a seat, we'd be grateful. We'll get started in a few moments. Hi. Well, thank you all for coming. I'm very deeply grateful. Our family is deeply grateful, and we're going to start off with a song, The God of All Grace. And we'll do the first two verses, and then we'll have a series of speakers, and then we'll close with the last two verses. So, Peter, take it away. Thank you all for coming this evening, this afternoon. The family and I are so grateful for your love, which keeps us going. Yes, I miss her. It's one of the strongest human emotions. I also want to acknowledge everyone who's joining us for live stream. And I also want to acknowledge that it was love that brought you here today. And we hopefully will be talking a fair amount about love. My role is to provide some context about what's going on. So I will talk about three things. We all have permission to be emotional in our grief and our storytelling. 2, we all have permission to be reminded about other times we've lost loved ones. And 3, I will share 2 examples of what I think is going on when someone dies. Then I will close with a brief survey. It's okay to be emotional today. Thomas Lynch says we want people to bear up. We want everyone to hold it together, but at the funeral they need to break down and fall apart. We need to mourn the loss of Mary Lou. We do miss her. We need to cry loud and long. She died pretty suddenly, much sooner than any of us expected. We need to cry tears and be hugged by someone else while we're doing it. We need to feel the loss, share some smiles, and experience the full rainbow of emotions. Thomas Lynch also says we do not need to treat the dead as a celebrity. We need a sufficiently nimble story to handle the mystery of mortality. So we're going to be trying to tell a few stories, and I know you've got more. Number 2, losing Mary Lou is completely tied to losing others. We can't get around it. We're only human. Let us join one another in our common humanity. In missing all the details of the intimate connections that we had with Mary Lou, our hearts remember all the intimate details that we miss about others who have died. Missing those who have died can be so strong. It can ache so much. So let's tell one another that truth. Our missing Mary Lou today is the same experience as our missing Danny, Mary, John Paul, Phil, the other Mary Lou, Grace, Leon, Charlie, Greg, Andrew, and Michael, Maureen, Doug, Rita, Carla, members of the Siles family, and so many more. We arrive here today recalling other funerals. Our emotions and memories are triggered, and that's just the way we are. That's okay. Number 3, a few personal thoughts on what I think is going on when we die. Jesus said, "Let the dead bury the dead." When I was younger, this scripture passage was totally incomprehensible to me. I considered it a one-off in the Bible. Now that I'm older, I understand that Jesus was simply stating what is really going on. The dead literally bury the dead. Here are 2 examples. Mary Lou and I watched a documentary on Audrey Hepburn. When she was dying, her children took turns being with her in her bedroom. And on what was to be the final watch of the night, her son reported that she told him, "You do not know all the people in this room, but they have come to help me go." The dead were there, and they were doing everything that needed to be done. The second example was my own witness of Duke's death, Mary Lou's dad, who lived with us for the last 6 years of his life. After 15 minutes of very labored breathing, his head jerked straight up as if his name had been called. He looked up and left and saw something. Mary Lou called to him, "Dad, Dad." but he remained completely silent, looking to the ceiling. Then he went still, his body relaxed, he closed his eyes, and he breathed his last. I was left to conclude that he saw a heavenly vision for a few brief moments. It was really quite simple and mysterious. Mary Lou was unconscious when she died in the ICU. She actually had been sedated for over 7 hours before she died, but she was semi-conscious for a brief period in which each son had a chance over the phone to say goodbye. But during these hours, I was extremely confident that her parents and other loved ones were there to help her. You know other examples, I'm sure. Finally, I'm going to have other speakers follow me, but first a brief survey. May I have a show of hands? How many knew Mary Lou as being strong? Great, yes, okay, thank you. You can put your hands down. Yes, she was strong, and she's been an inspiration to all of us, particularly in these past few years. She was remarkable, as her oncologist said, a rock star, as her friends have said. And one more show of hands. How many of you encountered Mary Lou when she was vulnerable? Yeah, naturally, thank you. A smaller number, thank you. Her strength was always evident at the price of her vulnerability. That's fine. I suspect from the other side of this thin veil that we will find her loving us when we are at our most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. My name is Father Thomas. I'm the pastor here at St. Patrick's Church. And I would like to thank Joe for inviting me to share some of my memories of Mary Lou. And one thing that I know for sure is that I will miss all the talks with Mary Lou, and simply sitting with her and our liturgy formation team at our conference room, planning the next Christmas, the next Lent, the next Easter, or sharing a meal with her at the Verla's house, or sitting in the chair in the living room just chatting. I will miss her text messages and all those long emails. I will miss her is what unites all of us here today, as Joe alluded just a few minutes ago. Now, years ago, I came across this quote: "There are only 2 ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle." These words were spoken by Albert Einstein, and I posted these words a few years ago on my Facebook. And the day after Mary Lou passed away, it showed up in my memory feed on Facebook. I don't think it was a coincidence. I think and believe it was a providence. Mary Lou believed in miracles, and she recognized that miracles have an amazing power to lead you, guide you, strengthen you. Little miracles of love and friendship, and big miracles. She knew deep down in her heart and being that she was blessed with so many miracles in her life. Especially after she was diagnosed with what seemed to be an impossible illness 4 years ago. I still remember sitting with Joey in the third pew right over there when she told me the news. Mary Lou made an intentional choice to live in the world of miracles. Again, little ones and big ones. Now, if I were to choose one word to remember or emphasize when it comes to Mary Lou, or if you were to choose one word, what would that word be? It's a bit unfair, isn't it? Because one word can never capture one's life adequately. But to me, if I were to choose one word, that word would be passion. Passion sums up Mary Lou's faith and life well. Mary Lou did everything with passion and lived her life with passion. She was dedicated, gave her best, gave her all, strength, heart, mind, and soul, basically to everything. Family, friends, faith, work, church. You see, passion is a virtue of children, isn't it? They are born with passion. By nature, children are passionate. As adults, sometimes we lose it for one reason or another. Mary Lou never did. I was watching the other day the video of Mary Lou's Lenten mission reflection in March of 2019. And it was beautiful and filled with passion and conviction and faith as she preached from this pulpit, as she talked and reflected on her mom's passing away. Passion. I vividly remember one liturgy committee meeting when Mary Lou came with copies of a book on liturgy, and she gave it to all of us at the table and said to all of us, "You got to read this." Now, how often does that happen in any committee, in any parish? And then, with passion, she told us why we should read this book. To me, in conclusion, Mary Lou made a choice to live in the world where everything is a miracle. And she did everything with passion. Mary Lou, thank you for that.
Hello, friends. Mary Lou is a treasure, and she considered all of us treasures, most recently referring to us as the swirl, which I didn't really understand. It took me a while to figure out what she was talking about. But I think what she meant was that anyone, including each and every one of you here, anyone who surrounded her with love during these most turbulent years, during this journey over very rough terrain, these last 4 years, were the swirl. I first met Mary Lou in 1979 when she moved to Dorchester, Massachusetts, a small neighborhood in Boston. And Roger and I lived in close proximity with her, and then with Joe. And we were with others in that time, during that time, exploring what it might be to face the challenges of urban Boston in the 80s, if we were all trying to be more intentionally, and as you said, Father Tomas, so beautifully, if we were more passionate about listening to the voice and the spirit of Jesus. And listen with passion, Mary Lou did. Not only with her quick mind, she was so smart, eager to grasp new ways. She even drove all the way out to Vancouver, Canada once to be able to understand a new way of thinking. But she also listened with her gut. She carried a strong sense of urgency, as we all know, and justice. Action was essential to her faith. Mary Lou's vision also included a sense of being cared for by God, a strong sense. During one of many conversations, I shared with her how worried I was that she wasn't going to get the job that she had applied for with Physicians for Social Responsibility. And she quipped, "I don't know why, Claire, but I know I'm going to get this job." And she did. Perhaps because she had this strong sense of God's care for her, she could celebrate more than anyone else I know. I'm quite sure that I've met all of you at one of her many gatherings, and you have met all of each other. You all look very familiar to me, but we're all a lot older. First, of course, her marriage to Joe, and then celebrating each and every one of her beautiful children, Ben, Sam, Michael, Christian, and their growing families, and her beautiful granddaughter. And then, of course, there were baptisms, confirmations, anniversaries, celebrations of people moving on from this life, and more graduations, baptisms, confirmations, anniversaries, and birthdays, and the entire liturgical calendar. Once I told Mary Lou, "I can't wait to take down my Christmas tree. It has to come down on New Year's Day." And she seemed absolutely appalled, but commented with kind surprise, "Claire, don't you know Christmas is not actually over until Epiphany, January 6th. Apparently, I did not know that. The last time Mary Lou and I shared an individual text was during this Advent on December 13th. She had been briefly in the hospital, and she was home now in her cozy home. I texted her, and I sent a video actually, of our sparkling fireplace and some Christmas music that she liked, even though it wasn't really Christmas. She replied right away, and this is what she said on December 13th. "Thank you, Claire. Jesus is most definitely present in the here and now. I'm so grateful to you and Roger for your prayers, love, support, and flexibility. I'm settling in for the night, hoping for a good night's sleep." This is essential Mary Lou, present, grateful, and able to let go. A week later, on December 20th, a day after she had died, I woke up in the morning feeling such sorrow and loss of her presence. As I got out of bed and walked a few steps, I heard a clear, no-nonsense voice in my mind, Mary Lou style, with the words, "Claire, be faithful to the living." And I felt a sense of hope. I knew Mary Lou was right there, guiding me, exactly like she would have said to me. Essential Mary Lou, present in the moment, being given to this day, and grateful for each and every person that she met and all those in the world she had not met.
There's a lot of you. I'm Michael, one of her sons. When I think of my mom, some of the first things that come to mind are the ocean, music, and Advent. Each of these comes with its own rhythm, a cadence that helped ground her and make her who she was. Since we've just come out of Advent, I'll start there. It is both devastating and somehow fitting that she died during Advent, what she called the season of her soul. She held a deep reverence for the darkness and the contemplative nature of this time of year. Even amidst the frenzy of the holidays, she found time to slow down and attend to her inner stillness. I remember many nights with her as a child and as an adult, sitting in our living room with just the lights of the Christmas tree to illuminate the space. There was no conversation, nothing needed to be said. Just the silent magic of the season, and she was a vessel for it and a witness to it. She was all about that magic. The past tense is weird. My mom also helped establish music as a cornerstone in my life from an early age. My brothers and I will remember our annual road trips out to Rochester, accompanied by the sounds of Peter, Paul, and Mary, or Bill Staines. As we got older, we were introduced to Bruce Springsteen, the Eagles, Simon and Garfunkel, Joni Mitchell, the list goes on. And her vinyl collection was pretty great. This affinity for classic rock and folk really informed who I became as a musician, and music became one of our most reliable ways of connecting with each other. My mom and I would often text obscure song lyrics back and forth, waiting to see if the other could pick up the next line in the song. It was a silly game, but deeply meaningful. She would be pleased to know that as I drove down from Vermont last week, I was belting out Bruce Springsteen at the top of my lungs. A memorial in its own way. And then, of course, there's the ocean. We all know about this one, I would imagine. She was at home in the salty air, the briny water, the expansiveness of sky. It was, as she would readily tell you, her happy place. So please do take a shell or two with you as you go. I went to the ocean earlier this week and found myself feeling really annoyed that I couldn't text her about it. All the shells and smooth rocks and sea glass, the rolling of the waves in and out. I wanted her there. I know that we've all had moments of wanting her in our lives over the past couple weeks. The good news is that love carries on with a wild disregard for space, time, and dimension. Which is a nice thing to say, but it's another thing to know it in the body, to feel it deeply. I'll let you know if I ever get there, and I hope you'll do the same. This can't all be tied up with a nice ribbon. It is messy and frustrating and sad. Case in point, I have 2 different endings here, and I don't know which one I'm going to go with. So it's messy and frustrating and sad, and it can't be tied up. But since I can't help myself, I'm going to try and bring these 3 elements together. Here are a couple verses from a song off of an album that my brothers and I were raised on. John Denver and the Muppets at Christmas. Cult classic if you know it. When the mountain touches the valley, all the clouds are taught to fly, as our souls will leave this land most peacefully. Though our minds be filled with questions, in our hearts we'll understand when the river meets the sea. Like a flower that has blossomed in the dry and barren sand, we are born and born again most gracefully. Thus the winds of time will take us with a sure and steady hand when the river meets the sea.
Okay. As my brothers come up, I'll let you know I will be reading directly from this paper and I will not be looking up. You will soon learn I get lost in tangents very quickly. Which leads me to the ride over here. A strong message was put in my head. Tissue. Favorite thing ever was being your mom. She repeated that so many times this year, and being a Nana. The boys was her favorite thing. Not just being a mom, but being your mother. Best job she ever had. Thank you for making it such a good job. Now I'm back to reading. Through tears, here we go. Okay, 6 minutes. Technically, those of us speaking were given 6 minutes. I talk a lot, so I'm sticking to paper.
No.
Thank you all for coming to share this moment with us, because we extend our condolences to all of you. And those who couldn't be here or those who are watching, we understand. Where did I start? This is Steve. He is the oldest. Then came Mary Lou. And this is Marty. For her siblings. With an 8-year-old girl's wishes and prayers for a little sister, I came into being. My name is Judy. Mom and Dad had something to do with it, but they were surprised too. And we've heard the story enough. And now we see the early stages of her faith and her will. 8 years old. I can't leave out our oldest brother, Michael. He came before Steve, but sadly only graced this planet for 2 days. She has finally met him. Oh, the celebration. Mary Lou, always a loving sister, supportive in any way that she was able. She made herself physically present through all of our joyous life events, our challenges, and our struggles. Faith and family foremost, a part of her being. Family didn't just come from our family tree. Once welcomed into her heart and soul, you became a branch of that tree. It's a big tree. I'm amazed and grateful at the dear friends I now have because of her. I was thinking over this last year, I haven't been able to be at home, and my friends have stayed true. They check in with me, text me, but I have some wonderful friends here. Thank you. The strength of her faith, the depth of her ability to love, and the power of her will defined these last 4 years. With these gifts and the constantly evolving support of Joe, she created a swirl around herself. She often sought strength and encouragement from you, the swirl. She leaned into it daily, and that will be her phrase. I got to lean into the swirl today. They'll carry me. And we did, all of us. In turn, she shared those very feelings with all of us, watching in amazement. Our gratitude to her medical team cannot be expressed. We can only feel it, and it's immense. Their professional and kind ways of working within Mary Lou's guidelines, for them to always expect the unexpected. That was her phrase repeatedly at her weekly visits with her oncologist. Always remember, expect the unexpected. Oh yes, there's always another hand at work here. They wisely and graciously did, and we are grateful. Mary Lou, ever willing to help and guide or share her knowledge, was a constant with her. I hadn't actually realized until this last year what a formidable force she is. I use the present tense because she's already shown me she still is present. We will leave you with a poem my niece Chrissy sent me hours after that morning on the 19th. It sums up both Mary Lou's and our feelings in this transition she has taken. Here we go. It's called When I Go. Okay. Don't learn to live without me. Just learn to live with my love in a different way. And if you need to see me, close your eyes or look into your shadow when the sun shines. I'm there. Sit with me in the quiet, and you'll know that I did not leave. There is no leaving. When one soul is blended with another, when I go, don't learn to live without me. Just learn to look for me. In all the moments you feel me, I'm there. She is there. She is here. She's already walked with me and said she is in the greater glory, Jude. I was like, okay. I turned my head. She wasn't saying there. She should have been saying there. It was out loud. She is still present. And she's watching. So share that glory. Dance in that light. She's dancing in it right now, gloriously with family that have gone before and friends. Thank you all so much for being here. Thanks, guys. Oh, I forgot to say, we're the do-till kids.
Well, I am one of the branches that Judy just so beautifully talked about, one of the people who was made part of Mary Lou's tree. My name is Stephanie Chu, and Mary Lou and I both moved to Dorchester, Massachusetts in the summer of 1979. We were each in our early 20s. And we joined an intentional Christian community founded by Roger Dewey and his wife Claire, who spoke tonight or this afternoon. It was a community called Christians for Urban Justice. Joe was also part of that community. Mary Lou and I formed a bond quickly. We were both drawn to this community because of our experience of Jesus and his radical message of love. And we loved each other from the start. It was an unmistakable bond. I had the joy and privilege of being Mary Lou's roommate before she married Joe in 1981. We were roommates, and I'll tell you a little more about that in a moment. And our friendship grew and deepened over almost 45 years. In a way, we grew up together, not as children, as Mary Lou did with her siblings, but we grew up together as young adults, as adults in midlife, and adults in later life. I have so many memories of Mary Lou. It was hard to focus for today, but I will share two with you. First, we created a home together when we were roommates. And Mary Lou was so good at creating a warm, welcoming, inviting home. I'm sure many of you experienced that. Mary Lou and I did a lot of cooking together and a lot of bread baking. And along with all of this homemaking, we also had many, many conversations about God and about knowing ourselves at home in God. The second memory is actually sort of a collective memory. It's seasonal gatherings that Mary Lou and Claire Dewey and I would have. And we did this over many decades. Sometimes in Uxbridge, sometimes in Cambridge, sometimes in Dorchester. Mary Lou was so focused on creating and appreciating beauty during these gatherings. Flowers, food, gifts, the surroundings that she created. And at the same time, we had many deep conversations about our inner lives and our experience of God's love. At her core, Mary Lou held what seemed to be opposites so wonderfully and so beautifully. The pragmatic and the poetic, the material and the spiritual, the outer life and the inner life. The here and now and the eternal. Mary Lou knew that beauty pointed to the eternity in our hearts, and she lived this by the grace of God. Oh, and like Michael, I had more than one way to conclude, but this is where I landed. I am so very grateful to have known and walked with Mary Lou for almost 45 years. I will miss her deeply. The loss is profound and real. And at the same time, as Judy just so beautifully said, the love and grace that Mary Lou embodied is here among us. It lives on in Joe, their children, and in Ruby, and also in each one of us. She touched our lives in unmistakable and unforgettable ways. So thank you, Mary Lou, for being who you were and who you are. Thank you.
I'm Ann Covino. I have some words here. I have pondered deeply in preparation for this day and these weeks. There are so many memories, like butterflies. Mary Lou and I really met for the first time on a Friday evening 31 years or so ago. Paul and Joe had an event together, and I had work. Someone asked Mary Lou to watch my 4 little boys. I knocked on the back door on East Street after work and was welcomed by this generous woman who opened her arms to my entire family. She fed me, and we began to talk about all the things. And we never stopped talking. She said yes to a crowd of boys and a baby. Yes to a brand new friendship. And that was that. One moment in time that set the light shining on all the following moments. Mary Lou was a woman of deep faith, joy, grace, and love. She was my friend and a part of me. She knew me like a sister, and we shared joys and sorrows, laughter and tears, 2 kinds of tears. Her faith was strength for all of us. She introduced me to so many people and parish projects that continue to enrich my life and my world. Every day I have prayed for her. I know God was always by her side throughout her life, and especially these last challenging years. While I was chatting with God, I asked for a few small things. I hoped for one more walk on the beach with Mary Lou. God reminded me that we had several beach walks one weekend in Maine, with bonus sunrises and dancing. I hope for one more gourmet meal together. God gave me an unexpected little lunch visit. Thanks, Joe, for the mashed potatoes. I asked God for a little more time. we had one more hour of simplicity and quiet presence together. Although her physical presence is absent, she is not. She loved all of us. She loved this place, and she loved God. So look around. We are surrounded by her love and our memories of her. She is with us always. So until we meet again, thank you for Mary Lou, for her life and her love. Alleluia. Amen.
Wow, there's a lot of people. For those of you who do not know, I'm Christian, Mary Lou's youngest son. The best thing about going last is I get to reiterate everyone's points that they've already made, and I get the credit for it. My mom would be probably a bit frustrated because I just wrote all of my notes as the God of All Grace started playing. But I want to talk to everyone about love. When I think of my mom, I think of love, and the love that she had for me and everyone in this room. The love my mom had for me is baked into my bones. It cannot be taken away. Every single memory has made me who I am, and that is the same for many of you. I invite you all to reminisce on that love, grieve for that love, to cry and be angry and be sad and be joyous. We have an amazing opportunity in this time of reflection to think about how Mom touched all of our lives and to really lean in to the swirl, to the love we have for each other, our shared memories, and to grow from there. We may be left asking, what do I do now that Mary Lou's gone? I'm asking that. But this is a time to reaffirm our relationships with each other. Just because Mom's physical body is gone does not mean that the bonds we share are any different than they were before. And I invite you all to hold each other close. And maybe you'll find something new about the relationships that you share. So Mom would have wanted more love for everyone. And it's something that we'll all get through together. Thank you all for being here. And thank you for all the love. And I encourage you to hold each other in love and in joy. Thank you. We will close with the final two verses of the God of All Grace. And then the wake will continue and visitation will commence. Thank you.